I have to agree with Kobayashi here. I think Liselotte is absolutely adorable. Endo and Kobayashi Live, the latest in the Tsundere Villainess Lieselotte, is a series that, while does kind of borrow a lot of tropes from other series, does kind of manage to set itself aside from the typical norms of your villainous type story. Give it a vantage point of two different perspectives, both inside and outside of the game world itself, which, like I said before, ultimately presents an interesting and very unique style of storytelling that in the end was really carried by the characters and their interactions. And thankfully, is a full adaptation. I know, it's rare. This is my review of Tsunlise, a series that aired in the winter 2023 anime season, so let's jump right into it. Endo and Kobayashi Live, the latest in Tsundere Villainess Lieselotte, opens up with Endo and Kobayashi. They're in our modern times Japan, and we get a really quick sense that Endo really likes Kobayashi. He's actually joined a club, a broadcasting club, just for the sake of hanging around with Kobayashi. He does have some desires to be a broadcaster and actually do voicing over sports events and stuff like that. But again, his main desire is to just get closer to Kobayashi. And from Kobayashi's side, we find out that she really loves a certain Otome game, Magikoi. She's played it over and over and over again, and the main reason why is that she really loves the villainess Liselotte. And of course, the unfortunate thing about this whole situation is that as you play Otome games, typically the villainess at some point dies. And so she's always been seeking out that moment that Liselotte could get with Sigvald, the main character, the main love interest, the prince. The one that she's been living her whole life up to the point where she would marry him. But she's always been the nasty villainous character. So obviously with the vantage point of playing the game, you think this is the villainess, she needs to be taken out. But no, Kobayashi loves her. Well, one day Kobayashi manages to talk Endo into playing the game with her. And specifically, since he wants to get into broadcasting and voicing over, that he'll actually narrate over the game itself. And her being an expert of the game itself, she would be the one that gives the analysis, the expert analysis of what's going on. So the two of them together, narrating over the game, they play through it. But something special happens. At some point, as Kobayashi and them are yelling out, Sigvald hears. It seems like there's some sort of connection they're having suddenly where whatever they say in the real world is getting to Sigvald. And of course, knowing this, Kobayashi decides to test it. Tells Sigvald that Liselotte is a tsundere, that she actually doesn't mean what she's saying outwardly, and that she's actually madly in love with Sigvald. And to test it out, she tells Sigvald to kiss Liselotte. And he does. And what sort of comes from this afterwards, you see Endo and Kobayashi as they get together all the time to play through the storyline, trying to get a new ending. An ending where the villainess doesn't die, but rather gains the love of Sigvald and those around her. Explain to them Liselotte's major issue, that she is a tsundere. That inwardly she loves the people around her, but she doesn't know how to express it. So my thoughts on Endo and Kobayashi Live, the latest on the Tsundere Villainess Lieselotte. I really did love this show. Now, I won't say this show is perfect in any way, shape, or form. Visually, it's not perfect. There's some flaws to it. And yes, the storytelling at times can feel a little bit repetitive. But at its core, what I really did love was really seeing the excitement around Endo and Kobayashi as they played through this new playthrough of this game. And seeing how their voice and their interactions can ultimately change the lives of these characters within this video game. And yes, a huge part of my love for the series is around Liselotte. I'm a fan of the tsundere archetype, and I really do love whenever a show or a story takes that archetype and really bends it and messes with it. Ultimately, at some point, giving a full perspective of why Liselotte is the way she is. She's not simply a tsundere character. It's just that she's been living her whole life with this expectation and this misconception about what's going on around her, and ultimately the fears of being overtaken by this witch, which will lead to her being killed. At face value, yes, Liselotte is just terrible at communication. And it does lead to a lot of really funny moments. Unlike most cases where she acts tsundere and the characters go, well crap, she obviously doesn't like me. Instead, we're getting perspective of that correction happening, where Endo and Kobayashi tell Sigvald or somebody else, no, that's not what's going on here. And then the reverse happens where it blows up in Liselotte's face. Say Sigvald walks into the cafeteria, and Endo and Kobayashi tell him, hey, Liselotte has a petal in her hair. Take it out. And he does. And she gets angry because he touched her in public. So telling Sigvald, no, she doesn't really mean that. She actually really liked the fact that you put your hand on her hair, gives Sigvald the confidence to say, oh, well, if you don't like to be touched in public, well, why don't we go somewhere private? And that completely flusters her. It's just really good every time it happens. But like I said earlier, there's a side of me that almost at some point, it got a little repetitive. But I think the way this series kind of refreshed that chemistry and refreshed the story so well is that over time, different mechanics get introduced that ultimately shift the story and shift what you think is normal. Take for instance the fact that now that Sigwalt is going after Liselotte, the villainess, the main heroine character, the main girl of the story itself, obviously shifts her focus to somebody else and is no longer being pursued by Sigwalt. Well, this leads to her becoming massively overpowered because she starts leveling up and stuff. And then, of course, the big question mark is now that we're trying to get Liselotte to get with Sigwalt, and this main girl is no longer important, Fine, we want to change the perspective of the game. Otherwise, we're just going to follow Fine as she just leaves. We want to keep our eye on Sigwalt and Liselotte. Well, again, they introduce a new mechanic that ultimately shifts it. These blessing of the gods, because Sigwalt always sees Endo and Kobayashi as the voice of God. These little blessings they give and the shifting perspectives and stuff just really does spice it up over time. Like I said before, it is another villainous Otome game. While not a reincarnation, it's kind of going with that same concept. Keep the villainess alive. Everything you think about the villainess is wrong. But being a narration, being a play-by-play, let's play basically, gives it a different spice. And every time they successfully decipher what Liselotte really thinks and changes what the characters think of her, and Kobayashi and Endo get super excited because they love her so much and want her to succeed, ultimately just kind of hit me and I get excited too with them. Kobayashi's excitement is infectious. And when she's happy about a kiss or a princess carry, it gets you in there with it. And like I said before, even though it's not the most beautiful show, they do really nail the expressions of the characters and those pinnacle points of the show. And while I think a lot of the weaknesses of the series is probably a lot of the side characters, besides maybe Balder and Fine, in the end, I think I got enough from each of them that I was a little bit satisfied. And I will admit that in the end, the very final arc of the whole story was actually surprising. It really took my expectations and kind of threw it out the door because I kind of assumed this would just be a story about them talking to a video game. That it was just going to be, okay, they play the game till the end, you know, Liselotte wins and game over. It is something kind of surprising with it. In the end, I do recommend Endo and Kobayashi live. While it's not a masterclass in writing, it's not the best thing ever, it's just a series that I really did enjoy watching from beginning to end. While having a lull point here and there, a little bit of repetitiveness in the story itself. Other than that, everything else was really great. And thankfully a case of a show that looks like it's a full adaptation, so you don't have to have some sort of cliffhanger at the end or a source material bait. It really did feel nicely wrapped up. And surprisingly, at the very end, the last episode, I actually got emotional. It really did hit me. I was like, wait, I'm gonna cry, don't do that. It kind of is a testimony to how much I kind of fell in love with these characters. Mainly the main cast with Kobayashi and Liselotte for the most part. But that's my review of Endo and Kobayashi Live, the latest in the Tsundere Villainess Lieselotte. If you guys like this video, make sure to go down below and hit that like button. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of the series if you're going to be checking it out. Additionally, if you're new to this channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list if it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I'd greatly appreciate it if you consider supporting us on Patreon. Tips link, super thanks button down below. Additionally, you can become a member of the channel. It's not like I want you to support the channel or anything, Babaka.